From the headquarters of Telesur English in Quito, Ecuador, this is From the South, and I am Sohini Gray. President Nicolas Maduro has announced a renewed action plan to be developed with all three branches of the state to defend the sovereignty of the country and fight corruption. He held a meeting with representatives of all branches to form a new action plan to fight economic crime. Maduro also stressed the need for greater unity between the Venezuelan state's constitution and legislature in defense of sovereignty.
We have checked what action we should take to fight corruption, especially everything related to the fight against the criminal mobs in our economy that have damaged so many people's lives. We are looking more deeply into the investigation process and taking action to stop criminal gangs and mobs, as in the Paper Hands operation, which is proving a success and will go farther.
And Delcy Rodriguez, the president of the Constituent Assembly, said the laws against corruption would be reinforced.
We want to coordinate and consolidate the rule of law in Venezuela. President Maduro has requested the Assembly's representatives provide the necessary legal reforms to reinforce an anti-corruption plan, and also to protect Venezuela's sovereignty, freedom and peace against any local and international threat for the upcoming presidential elections on May 20th. The Venezuelan people should know that their votes will be protected by every state institution.
We are making an impact internationally because there is no other country in Latin America that fights corruption like we do. We have achieved huge results fighting corruption. At the same time, we have plans to strengthen the anti-corruption program. We need to keep moving forward and investigate new laws to fight corruption, especially against offshore accounts that have damaged our country for many years.
Russia has criticized calls to boycott the Venezuelan elections and accused the United States of isolating the country to promote regime change. Russian Foreign Ministry spokesperson Maria Zakharova said calls to boycott the elections are a response to U.S. foreign policy. She described the upcoming elections as a great opportunity to achieve reconciliation and said that to ignore them would be counterproductive. The Lula supporter injured when the Lula camp in Curitiba was attacked has been released from hospital. The shooting incident happened last Saturday as a vigil was being held in support of the imprisoned former president.
Jefferson Lima, the union member who was shot last Monday during an attack against a camp campaigning for Lula da Silva's freedom, left the hospital on Thursday and even talked to the president of the Workers' Party, Senator Gleisi Hoffmann. She pointed out that the attack on the Lula camp wasn't a one-off. 2 weeks ago, another right-wing group wearing the logo of a local Curitiba soccer team attacked and hit Lula's supporters with steel bars. Another attack on Lula supporters occurred in Paraná. In the last month, in Paraná alone, 3 attacks took place. The last attack is being reported to the authorities, and people are calling for investigations so that the attackers can be punished. We will continue to report on attacks and show you the people's resistance at the vigil in support of Lula da Silva.
Still in Brazil, more than 800 campesinos are in Sao Paulo presenting their farming methods and agricultural products at the National Agrarian Fair organized by the Landless Rural Workers Movement.
The food products displayed in this fair are coming from 23 different states of Brazil. They are all organic and produced without the use of chemicals and pesticides. They are the result of 34 years of struggle by the landless campesinos who are participating in this fair.
We left our houses on Sunday afternoon and arrived here on Thursday morning. We have come to bring our food products to the fair to show that our aim is to use the land to grow natural, healthy food.
The modern model of production uses transgenic seeds that depend on agrochemicals that are harmful for the health of farmers, consumers, and the earth. The Landless Workers Movement tries to fight this model of production by using agroecological seeds and growing food without the use of pesticides.
Like in most Latin American countries, toxic chemicals and improved seeds are being imposed to farmers. But it is very important for the campesinos to keep using natural seeds. There is a big difference between a natural seed and a transgenic seed.
About 75% of wild flora is pollinated thanks to the bees, and 40% of what we eat depends on them. But since that doesn't bring profits, the agribusiness is trying to get rid of bees by using poisons to avoid the contamination of their monoculture plantations. The landless workers' movement is fighting against this apocalyptic model.
If we don't have bees, there is no pollination. If you put chemicals on plants, then the bees will die. They can't survive the poison.
For 4 days, the landless movement will try to spread information about organic agriculture and to look for ways out of this crisis in the country, in which the agrarian business has way too much power.
Nicaragua's Episcopal Conference says it's ready to begin talks following violent protests that have disrupted the country in the past few weeks.
Lisette Gonzalez feels pain and indignation after her 21-year-old brother, William Gonzalez, died on Thursday morning due to a heart attack. Nonetheless, social media posts carelessly report that his death was caused by a bullet during protests at the Polyethnic University of Nicaragua.
My brother suffered a heart attack in my living room at 7 p.m. He wasn't at the university. This disinformation by the right wing is meant to confuse the people. I see what's happening on the streets. Criminals causing all sorts of damage. Do you really think they are students?
On Thursday, Cardinal Leopoldo Brenes asked students to pick representatives and topics to discuss for upcoming talks.
You must be aware of outsider groups that may infiltrate the student movement and are provoking violence and sowing confusion.
The highest representative of the Catholic Church in Nicaragua has asked people to be careful with news that is spread over social media.
I would say to the press, those of you who should be informing us, that you need to check whether something is true or not before publishing.
Journalist Adolfo Pastrán says there's no worse thing for a country than fear. He warns that Nicaragua is being attacked by fearmongers who want to cause panic and are spreading false news.
Creating panic among the populace helps a crisis to escalate, and the end goal is to overthrow the government. What Cardinal Brenes said is incredibly important. We must fact-check our sources. We can't allow ourselves to be manipulated and cause an uproar with false news, which is the same strategy being used in Venezuela.
Representatives of the Catholic Church in Nicaragua say they are ready to host peace talks at the National Interdiocesan Seminar.
That story takes us into the break, but join us again after this look at what our multimedia colleagues are reporting. Welcome back. Cuban citizen accused of terrorist plot, Raul Gutierrez, has admitted links to far-right groups in Colombia and Cubans exiled in Miami. In March, Gutierrez was detained in Colombia and accused of planning the murder of presidential candidate Gustavo Petro and FARC member Rodrigo Londoño. In an interview with local media, he said he had been ordered to attack the Colombian left wing.
So you came here to commit terrorist attacks?
Yes,
Against what?
against the candidate and former member of our revolutionary movement.
Gustavo Petro?
Yes, sir.
So, just to leave things crystal clear, you admit you came to Colombia to attack candidate Gustavo Petro?
Yes, sir, that is the truth. And if I have to pay for it, I will. This movement I belong is founded and promoted by the Cuban exile in Florida and the Colombian far-right wing.
And Colombian President Juan Manuel Santos has proposed to turn the country into a producer of medical marijuana. The new industry will focus on oils, creams, and inhalers produced in laboratories. Colombia hopes to grow 40.5 tons of medical marijuana every year and to reach 1/5 of the global market. That would be worth around $40 billion a year. Farmers who want to participate must destroy their illegal crops. The government has already authorized the production of marijuana for scientific research.
This is a great opportunity for communities of small and indigenous farmers who have been involved in Colombia's civil war, like those in the northern area of Cauca.
In Argentina, the price of electricity and basic services have spiked, and now the dollar is also increasing. President Mauricio Macri left a cabinet meeting on this at the Casa Rosada presidential palace without addressing the media. He left quietly via helicopter. Now, flying by helicopter isn't unusual for the president, but it has raised some eyebrows due to the increasing political tension over the rise of the US dollar. Our correspondent in Argentina, Edgardo Esteban, has more details.
On Thursday, the dollar increased 8.3% against Argentina's peso. It stabilized after a press conference given by the finance minister, Nicolas Maduro. He said they will continue with their economic path and they will raise the interest rate to 40%. Following pressure from big companies, the number of employees in the public sector will be reduced, and they cut spending on public works by billions of dollars. The government says that in 2018, inflation will not exceed 15%, even though, given the current rate of increase, it is more likely to exceed 24%. Difficult times are ahead in the economy of this neoliberal government of Mauricio Macri.
We thank Edgardo Esteban for that report. Now, in Barbados, the campaign is heating up ahead of the May 24th election. The opposition Barbados Labour Party took to the streets in a caravan on Thursday as the prospective candidates made their way to the Treasury to pay their deposits. The BLP officially launches its campaign and manifesto on Saturday evening. Political leader Mia Motley is encouraging voters to ensure that they're registered to vote ahead of the deadline.
If you really want to make sure that you can vote on the 24th of May, don't wait for a canvasser or a candidate to check that your name is on the list. Go to blp.org.bb or call the electoral office hotline and check yourself, because in the words of the old BTC Barbados Turf Club ad, if you don't have a ticket, you don't have a chance. If your name is not on the voters list by Monday evening, you will not be able to vote. So please go and check. If it's not there, then you can go to any of the centers or to the Electoral and Boundaries Commission and get your name on. So each and everybody, you know they have those ads, Uncle Sam wants you, but I want you to check the list for your name. If you do it, many hands, mate, like work. Thank you.
In Guyana, President David Granger has condemned the pirate attacks off the coast of Suriname, which left 16 fishermen missing and feared dead. Granger said he's been working with the government of Suriname to bring the perpetrators to justice. He says the attacks are setbacks to what he calls 3 years of successes in curbing piracy. Local media is reporting that at least one person has been held in connection with the attack. 3 bodies have been recovered so far.
We are deeply grieved by the tragedy. Clearly, some Guyanese have been victims, and we are in touch with the Surinamese government and also the Surinamese police authorities. Our police in the B Division, which is the East Berbice Quarantine Division, are in touch with their families. And we plan to observe, formal mourning. It's a great massacre, a great tragedy.
An aerial mapping project of coral reefs in the Caribbean has been launched from St. Croix in the U.S. Virgin Islands. It's the first time that the shallow waters of the entire Caribbean basin have been mapped. An aircraft will collect high-resolution images of reef habitat and gather data of both healthy and damaged ecosystems. Time now for another short break, but join us again after another look at what our multimedia colleagues are reporting. Welcome back. Israeli troops used tear gas and fired at Palestinian protesters on the Gaza-Israel border. Palestinians have been protesting for the Great March of Return for 6 weeks now. At least 45 people have been killed by Israeli gunfire since the march started. 3 journalists were among those killed. Palestinians have been defending their right to return to their land.
We are here to demonstrate against killing civilians, demonstrators in Gaza, non-violent Palestinians who are demonstrating against the siege, demanding and asking for return.
And now let's have a look at some of the other stories making headlines around the world.
At least 4 people were killed and 9 others injured in multiple suicide blasts outside the northeast Nigerian city of Maiduguri. Boko Haram has increasingly used suicide bombers to attack civilian and military targets during its 9-year insurgency in northeast Nigeria. A pro-Palestinian demonstration was held in Yemen, with thousands voicing their anger over U.S. President Donald Trump's decision to move the U.S.-Israeli embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem.
We are standing by their side, with our arms, souls, and blood, until the liberation of Jerusalem. This is the path that we're on.
Hundreds of Korean Air employees took to the streets in Seoul, demanding the overthrow of the firm's controversial controlling family. A series of scandals have put Korean Air chairman Cho Jang-ho and his family among the country's most notorious super wealthy, and sparked a rare outburst of hostility from the firm's employees.
The Arizona teachers have settled. Their 6 days of marching have succeeded in pressuring the governor into increasing the state education budget from $65 million to $400 million. Earlier, I spoke to Eric Blanc. He's a former school teacher who's now reporting on the teachers' strike for Jacobin magazine. He told me that the success of a strike was a source of inspiration for teachers in other parts of the country.
Definitely. The strike wave it continues. It's an extremely exciting moment in U.S. history and labor history. After West Virginia, we saw Oklahoma, now Arizona. Already, Colorado teachers in one district are starting a strike this coming Monday. And in North Carolina on May 16th, teachers are also planning a walkout. So there's no sign that this strike wave is stopping anytime soon. It's very inspiring.
A state of emergency has been declared in Hawaii after the eruption of the Kailua volcano. The volcano spewed smoke and lava, prompting thousands of people to flee. Around 1,700 people were evacuated. Kailua is one of the most active volcanoes in the world. Following the eruption, authorities warned of more lava, fire, smoke, and earthquakes. Local elections in England have shown positive results for the Labour Party, following setbacks for Conservative Prime Minister Theresa May following the Windrush scandal and uncertainty over Brexit. As the results emerged, our correspondent in London, Pablo Navarrete, sent this report.
On Thursday, England saw local elections take place across 32 of London's boroughs and for more than 4,300 councillor positions across the country, including in some cases mayoral positions. Now the results have come in to a large extent. There are still, the last ones will be coming in at 7 p.m. local time on Friday here in England. Now the interesting thing is how the results have come in so far are being interpreted. It looks like Labour have had their most successful campaign since 1971. That's 47 years. But in the media, there seems to be a very subdued way of interpreting Labour's gains. It is true that Labour seems to not have won in London, in certain places, former Tory strongholds, Conservative strongholds that it was hoping to win, such as in Barnet and in Wandsworth. However, as the overall picture is of the biggest Labour victory since 1971, yet the British media seems to be very much, as I say, sober in its assessment and is receiving criticism, in fact, from a lot of social media analysts over what they see as a continued bias against reporting Labour under the socialist leader Jeremy Corbyn, that as we know took power in 2015 as head of the Labour Party and since then has changed the direction of the Labour Party towards the left. So there is a control of the narrative. Another important point worth mentioning is that were these results to be transposed to a general election, it would mean that the Conservatives would lose the wafer-thin majority that they have. They would fall 11 short, and that includes the 10 votes they currently have from the right-wing DUP in Northern Ireland. So they would fall 11 short of the 326 votes needed to form a majority. So these are the results as they're coming in. As I say, there seems to be a war for the control of the narrative over the results, and many, even on the right of Labour, are sort of criticising the performance, but it does seem that Labour have performed very well and that the Conservatives have not performed relatively well. So this is the latest from the English council elections that have taken place on Thursday.
We thank Pablo Navarrete for that report. The rise in the cost of rent in Spain is triggering an increase in evictions, and the tourism boom is only making the situation worse.
Tourists on trolleys looking for the address of their hotel is an ever more common image in Lavapiés. It's one of the oldest and most multicultural districts of the center of the Spanish capital, Madrid. The neighborhood has already been given the nickname Madrid's Hotel, and tourism is responsible for kicking locals out. Recently, the building Argumosa 11 was sold to a real estate company that then immediately requested that all the residents leave.
In my personal case, I don't have anywhere else to go. The center of Madrid is for rich people, and I live on a pension of 370 euros. And right now, there's no place available for this price.
In the last year alone, the average price for rent in the area has risen by 15%.
Greed is ruining everything. This rent bubble is fatal for us.
30 neighbors will be evicted from these houses. That will raise their rent to between 600 and 800 euros. These rates are unaffordable for the residents being kicked out.
My whole world is here, my social life too. I have been living here for 20 years. I have my doctor, I have my people. I'm already 68 years old, and it's difficult to get a job. I don't know what to do from now.
In just 2 years, Lavapiés has increased the number of vacation rental houses by 85%. The residents are facing a difficult problem as the housing companies aren't doing anything illegal.
It's so full of aggressive liberal policies that take away protection for citizens. There is no regulation in housing matters, and that lets private companies manage housing prices at will.
The neighbors of Argumosa 11 have organized marches for the weeks ahead to mark a neighborhood struggle. Their objective is to keep living in their city.
Chinese President Xi Jinping has hailed Karl Marx as the greatest thinker of modern times. Xi Jinping praised Marx's theory and said it is a tool for China to lead the world into the future. A conference has been organized in Beijing to mark Marx's 200th birthday. Marx was born in Germany on May 5, 1818. As a philosopher, economist, and historian, he has left a lasting legacy on the world. His image and thought continues to be deeply rooted around the globe. And we've come to the end of this news brief, but for these and many other stories, you can find them on our website at tellusyourtv.net/English. And join us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. For Tell Us Your English, I'm Sonie Gray. Thank you so much for watching.